the other thing's just the contract, so those are the
Okay.
important ones.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, we need to go through that. Since he doesn't want to call it scope of work, it's the kind of the detailed itinerary of what is,
Itinerary.
well, the detailed list of actions.
Well, it's called the scope of work in every other contract I've ever.
Well, whatever,
encountered.
okay, quote unquote.
Well, I tend to agree with Pam on this. You know, if we don't have a scope, what do we hold him? What are milestones? What
Right,
are the deliverables?
exactly. And that's what a scope of work
And,
does.
I don't care if the scope of work says, for him to adhere to whatever that document is that he called, but somewhere in here it has to say scope of work.
Because I thought we agreed that whatever, I'm not sure what we're calling it, so I'll just say the scope of work would be attached to the
Timeline
contract.
and
To
the contract, all those.
And stated in the contract that the scope of work is attached. I mean, that is a universal term.
Again, I have to ask, is the contract already signed?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, then we can't change anything, we already signed it.
Yeah, but it says attached scope of work and there's nothing there.
But you know, there's wiggle room in what, I mean, if things need to be tweaked.
Did I not send you something that said scope of work,
No, because,
an email after the last meeting that I'd gotten from?
you know, I showed this to George and
It's
he
not
said,
that
no, that's not scope of
Yeah.
work,
But
so.
we were talking back and forth with somebody at SDAO and I sent you a message after our last meeting, did I not? About that, in that link of that conversation. It's not gonna be a scope of work, but this is what we're considering a scope
Yeah,
of work that they,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
just to make sure.
you're
Okay.
good, you're good,
All right,
thank you.
So is this what would be attached to the contract?
Yeah,
Oh, gosh, you delivered stuff, I didn't even see you coming.
well, just so you have what we have. And we have what you have.
Yeah, I have it, I just
Yeah, I know.
can't find the damn thing. All right.
yeah, we've had a lot of emails lately.
A lot of meetings, actually.
And the other thing is somehow, and I don't exactly know how to do this, maybe this would be in the contract, is that the district is protected, that you can't just go, oops, I made a mistake, without some, in other words, if we paid for, this is what I would propose, if you wanted to pay for their traveling expenses or moving expenses, that they would be reimbursed at the end of, say, 6 months, which is when he or she would be reviewed if they're gonna leave. Trying to protect the
I
district.
didn't think, I thought that at our last meeting, we didn't
Wanna
wanna
do that?
do that.
Because it is done in other places, so it's, I'm not talking off the top of my head.
Well, my feeling on that, Pam, is that we want to encourage people to take the job. We don't want to do anything that would discourage them.
No.
And if waiting 6 months to be reimbursed is what we're suggesting, that may not be something that's viable for
That is a
particular
thought.
candidates, you
Yeah.
know.
Or,
You know, the fact is, we can't say, you gotta stay 2 years.
no,
We can't say anything like that. We can certainly let them know that like we did with Craig, you know, it would be great if you could stay 20 years, if you'd make this your last career move, if you would grow with the district. But, you know, they could leave 30 days after they start, and we don't have control over that, except by how we vet their character during the interview. That's as far as we can go. There can't be punitive action. I mean, we gave Craig vacation from day one, you know? We did everything that we could do to encourage him, but we couldn't say, you can't have this unless you stay a certain amount of time, or we're not giving you vacation for the first year. Those are all things, those are kind of things that need to be addressed in the negotiation. I mean, that's what the negotiation is for. And that's how it went with Craig. We didn't plan to pay for his move. We didn't plan to give him 3 weeks vacation. We didn't plan to give him the salary we gave him. Those were all things that were negotiated at the time they should have been negotiated. We could have said no at any time.
Mhm.
And he could have said no at any time. That's the whole purpose of the exercise. But I don't see where there's any way that we can guarantee how long they're gonna stay with us.
I'm not saying guarantee, I'm just protecting the district, that we're not burned. Like some people use it for a stepping stone, and that's
Well, that's
fine,
kind of,
that's fine,
the
but, you know,
problem,
they
that's
have
something
to.
we can't,
I know that, but,
prevent.
but if they say, whoops, I made a mistake, 30 days, because that's cost the district a lot of money, just doing it.
Well, that's the
If-
importance of like picking the right person, because, hopefully we can kind of, maybe we can get a better picture during the interviews and of, what a person's beliefs are in regards to that, because, those are values,
Mhm.
those come out with, finding out that who a person really is.
Frankly, if we'd have put that 6-month clause in the deal with Craig, it wouldn't have saved us. He'd have still left in a year, so it really wouldn't buy us anything.
Okay, I mean, this is done in other,
We know now, Pam, I'm 70 years old, and I remember, my parents' generation of being in the workforce. My dad, was not a 30-year man, but a 20-year man in one position as an instructor. And that's just not the world we live in now, And even when I was younger in the workforce, people stayed in jobs longer. But I'm not sure that, the reality is we should probably always be
I'm sorry,
we should always be able to go through the hiring process smoothly, and, because it's probably gonna happen every 5 years or so or less.
yeah, I understand that
Yeah,
part, that
yeah.
part. Or is there any, like reviewing his or her performance every first 3 months?
I don't think that's reasonable.
What,
I don't think that's reasonable.
okay, I'm just throwing things out.
I think a good manager is not gonna make any changes, any significant changes in the first 6 months, and probably in the first year.
Yeah.
Needs to get to know the town, the service, the people, the teams. I think somebody who comes in and begins to make changes right off the bat is gonna throw our employees off balance.
Okay, just throwing things out.
Yeah,
Um,
me too.
Yeah. Well, this is a very important job that we have ahead of us. We've got to find and George is an integral part of that, what he does, sending out the applications and, to the appropriate organizations, and, is good. But we also, who we get as applicants, we've got to kind of dig a little deeper to find out who would be the best person. I have a short list of what I think is important. We all probably do. I'm really looking for someone has the drive and the, like Paul says, kind of the character. I don't know how better to say it, but
And is bright.
that knows how to navigate and you know, we learn something every time somebody leaves, right? What skills, you know,
Not him.
we need.
Sorry, not him, excuse me.
So, and something, and I don't know how to do this, what has bothered me, which may have nothing to do with this, is that all of a sudden we hear about something in personnel. I know that's not our field, but, you know, all of a sudden, you know, we're told there's problems.
Yeah, and those were, you know, that's the responsibility of the director.
So when we're trying to find out the director's ability to work with people, manage people well, how do we draw that out?
Well, those would probably be the questions that are asked.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions that I have put together that I think would draw that out. And one of the things that I'm going to ask George if he won't include is that we should ask the candidate what they know about Sunset Empire.
Good.
And that would let us know if they did their research, if they're serious, if they're planners, if they think ahead. If they say, well, I don't really know much, I wouldn't put much weight on that candidate.
Right.
And the other question is that I'd like to ask each candidate to share with us how they participated in improving the culture of an organization. And that's a kind of an open-ended thing, you know, that would give them an opportunity to explain at length.
Or intentions and their experiences, because, you know, maybe they didn't get fully a chance to implement their ideas.
Well,
You know? I mean, people, depending on where they are on the spectrum of their career, you know, what don't exclude anybody that hasn't had a lot of experience with that, but what
well, I would think even if they hadn't had a lot of experience, I mean, if I hadn't had a lot of experience, if I was frontline laborer, and somebody asked me that, I would probably talk about
guess what?
what
I'm sitting in waiting. So now what do we do?
we have to let them in.
Oh, he's sitting on the roof.
Yeah.
Jason, I thought he was waiting to get the mic on.
Okay.
Am I? Jason?
So maybe I would talk about how I tried to be a role model, or how I behaved in an appropriate way to be an example to others.
I'm gonna confirm it's on.
Right.
George, this is
There he
Jason.
is.
Can you hear and see us?
Yeah, I mean, I can't see you right now, but I hear you. I hear you over there.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But you can see me, George.
Well, no, I can't. No, I can't.
Oh, really?
I don't know which. I can see myself, but I can hear you guys. But I ran into the office. I'm in Tigard, and I'm using the conference room stuff, and I'm in here by myself, so it's no problem. But it's, but yeah. Okay, let's go. This will work.
Okay, all right. Hi, George. We've got Paul Lewicki and Pam Allegria and me, Rebecca Reed, and Mary Parker.
Good.
And we're all here. We've had a chance to chat a little bit, and what we would like from to be able to accomplish today in our committee meeting is we've got a few questions for you, but mainly what we want to talk about is helping to get the most out of these panel discussions and the questions and the interviews. And so we're wanting to, you know, talk a little bit about that And then we've got some little housekeeping, nuts and bolts stuff after that. How's that?
Perfect. Can you hear me okay?
Sure.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm good with that. Let's just jump right into, I would like to hear your vision as a panel, as a committee for, let's call it the interview process. What we did last time is, we put some panels together. We met up at the college. We had 2 or 3 rooms. Just a second. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. We had 2 or 3. We had 2 or 3 panels set up. I don't have it right in front of me, but now and then the board did the final interview. Do you want to reduce that this time? Is the board? I hope the board isn't delegating their responsibility to do the final interview. I hope the board's still going to do the final interview, and I just kind of want you to walk me through what your vision is.
Yeah, you know what, let's start with the broad brush and then we'll work ourselves down to the details of,
Okay. All right.
And how many, interviews and all that. I'm gonna ask Paul to share with you, George, kind of our vision of, because it's based on what we want to get out of this. We want to hire the best applicant. So, let's just start with listening to Paul about it, and he's got some good insights.
Well, I think I would start by answering your question, George, and that is our vision of the process at this point. We're still relying on you to keep us on the right track, but I think that this committee feels that we probably overthought the process last time. We had quite a few people involved. We had logistics to worry about, and I don't know that focused us on what we were looking for. Nobody's fault. Every one of these is a learning process for all of us, and a lesson in human nature, I guess. But what we've been talking about recently is more like what we did with Jay and with Jeff, and that's we just had one panel. And if I remember correctly, it was 4 or 5 people. And we didn't have 15 people involved on multiple panels. So we've been talking about a board member. You, if you're so inclined, I think you were involved in the interviews of previous directors. A civic leader, maybe the county manager or a city manager. We talked about having Jennifer involved because she's kind of the lieutenant here, being in charge of operations. I think that her assessment of the personality that we end up hiring is going to be important because she needs to work with that person. And then one other per 4 or 5 people on the panel.
Yeah, I would definitely say you want 5.
Okay.
That
sounds good.
Yeah.
Will you be willing to be one of those people?
I would not, because I need to facilitate, either I or some of my role needs to do the facilitation. I want to, before we get into identifying the specific 5 people, what's their mission? What are they going to make a recommendation to the board, or or is the board, are they going to select 1 or 2, let's say 2 candidates that the board will then interview?
More like that. We're expecting that if we have an adequate number of applicants, that your organization would screen them for people who qualify.
Right, right.
End up with 5 or 6 candidates. We do the interview, and we would take the top 2 or 3 to be interviewed by the board.
Okay, so then I'm good. I'm very good with that. This panel would, let's just for numbers, would take who we screened to 5. This panel would take those 5, spend an hour with each one or so, maybe more, and then screen it down to 2 or 3. And then those 2 or 3 would go onto the board.
That's kind of
That
the way
sounds
I
right.
see it, and I think that's what we've talked about.
Yeah, perfect.
And this is not.
Go ahead, Pam.
Okay, I'll just spit it out. I feel that no board member should be on this because we have enough say in it in the process of interviewing. So I'd rather see another community member because we can ask questions and we can review we can do all the work. And I have, another suggestion is Bill Van Nostrum.
Well, as George just mentioned, he didn't want to get into
okay.
specifically who's going to be on the panel
Okay,
right now.
well, this is in terms of the board member, that's just a generic.
I think we're trying to help George establish, like he said, our mission, really, once he's got that, then that's gonna help him as a facilitator. And I'm fine with him being the facilitator. I want him in the room, of course, with that panel, the community panel, or the, yeah.
And then we're going to want to have that meet and greet like we had last time. The board feels that's a good exercise, and I think it's good too.
And that would be once we're down to 2 or 3.
I think it really depends on the people. Sometimes you get a lot of people that are really qualified and not be stuck
Yeah,
with
but I think
other-
George is saying, where in the process do we say
Oh.
meet and greet? And I guess it would make more sense. If we're
After
gonna
the
have the
panel.
meet and greet after the interview, it's gonna be the 2 or 3. If it's
Right.
gonna be the meet and greet before the interviews, I guess it's gonna be 5.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I've done it both ways. So, I'm not promoting one or the other, but I want to make sure you tell me what you think.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
I think
it makes more sense, because then the community gets to see more individuals.
I think if we have the meet and greet before the interview, the board is going to be more likely to perhaps disagree with the panel's results. If we pick number 1, 2, and 3, and a board member thinks number 5 was the one that they want, that may be more difficult than if we have the meet and greet with the final 3, and that's who the board sees, and that's who the board gets to question and make their opinions on. So I don't know how the committee
so
feels
based
about
on
that, or you, George, but
No,
So
I
we're
like-
looking at the timeline right now. So where would we place that?
Well, let's not talk about the timeline. We may want to adjust our timeline based on the discussion we're having here.
right.
Because you're kind of changing how I would design it a little bit, which is fine. I mean, we've got plenty of time. But let's kind of walk through this meet and greet, interviews, then board interviews, how we may see it, okay? And again, I'm not trying to push you one direction or another. I'm just trying to get some discussion out so I can hear what your thoughts are, because you guys have had more time to think about this really than I have, because I kind of went about this as like, okay, this is what we did before, we're going to do this again. Let me walk you through this. If you're going to put kind of a made up of this panel, which I could go either way with a board member on it or not, okay? I see value in both. I see value in having a panel of people that really represent, your service, where you provide the service, the community, and people that understand what that service is. Like, for example, a current general manager of a district similar to yours, on this panel. If we're going to do that, then I would have this panel perhaps, let's say, either do this in the morning. They would get all 5 candidates, if we have that many, in the morning, and then the board would come in maybe mid-afternoon and do the final interviews. If we did that all in one day, then having the meet and greet with all 5, again, we're just using a number, The evening before, it's easy to do. Okay? If we're going to do the panel interviews, let's say on a Monday, and not have the board do their interviews for a time period later than that, let's say the next day or a week later, then having a meet and greet just with the 2 or 3 finalists makes more sense.
Yeah. Well, we have a board meeting coming up 2 weeks from today, is that
A
right?
week,
23rd,
a week.
next week?
I think
think
it's
so.
2 weeks.
Oh, maybe.
No, it's 1 week away.
It's next week,
It's
next
a week from
Thursday.
today?
Yeah, it's the 4th, that would be the 4th Thursday. Today is the 3rd.
23rd.
23rd.
That's the 4th Thursday of July.
Where are we today? We're the 16th already?
Mhm.
Holy smoke.
Mhm.
Even better, I guess, but you know what I'm thinking, George? Isn't that, when is our, never mind, I answered that question. We got a board meeting next week. The committee is going to report to the board
Right.
meeting, to the board next week. I think if we can rough it out today, we can run that by the board. and Give
Absolutely.
them the opportunity to weigh in, because what I'm concerned about is I don't want any of the board members who are not involved at this point to feel that they were kept away from the process.
Right, exactly.
They may have some wants to pass on to us
Right.
to use going forward. So
And we're in perfect timing.
that
Because
works for you? George?
Me? Yeah, oh,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah. But I appreciate what you're saying, but I would like for us today to say, here's what we're going to recommend to the board.
Yes,
I agree with
Okay.
that.
Now, I'm not saying we have to give them the names of the people, but we want to give them, I would want to give them the, I don't want to say the characteristics of the people, but we expect this panel to include a general manager from an SETD, from a transportation district, maybe the county or city manager of the area, employee. I think you mentioned, somebody kind of representing the employee.
Operations manager.
Yeah, operations part, and then, maybe I always think it's nice when you put panels like this together, when you're just gonna do one, that you make sure you have somebody on that panel that maybe doesn't attend all your board meetings, but understands your system delivery, understands the services you provide. And I don't say they have to be somebody that necessarily rides a bus every day, but there's somebody that, has some connection to something you do. Does that make sense?
well, and also, I want to hire a really good manager. Somebody
Well,
who's
sure, we all do.
very, that really knows how to manage people. And so to me, a panel person that does that sort of thing, that's going to be real important, because they're going to be able to suss that out in the way that the applicant responds to the questions. So, we have a few other people in mind, kind of in the wings that, we could tap to, fill out that panel. I think
Yeah.
with that kind of an emphasis. It'd be nice to have a person with the transportation background. And we do have somebody in mind too, we have a Columbia County person that,
Yeah,
Could
we're
do
thinking
that. So I
about John Dreesen
yeah,
on the panel, if he'd do
Yeah.
it.
right.
Yeah.
So I think we'll be fine with the options for panel people.
So
What
George,
I would like you to do, let's just specifically talk about people now, just because you got to segue into that. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to put a list together of, let's say, 7 to 10 people that would work for you. And I would like to have their names, their association with the organization, and their contact information. And let me help screen those for you and come back to you with a recommendation. I won't pick them, but let me come back with a recommendation, because I want you to, part of my role is to kind of shield the board, and you represent the board, from criticism that's not necessary. You know, they didn't earn, okay? So let me help you with that. And again, I'm not going to dictate it. I'm just going to take a look at it, okay?
That sounds good.
That's good.
Sure.
George, I think that what we would want to share with you as we get a little finer on this board definition is that we're really not as interested in the technical operation of a transportation district like we were last time.
Mm-hmm.
We're not concerned about getting somebody who's very savvy on budgets and stiff plans and that sort of stuff. We have good financial management on staff now. What we're looking for is somebody who can be a team builder, somebody who can develop a healthy corporate culture for the district. So we're looking for, yeah, we want a good manager, but we want a manager that demonstrates the character of commitment, of working, having people work with him instead of for him or her, and a vision of building a healthy culture at the district.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking for a personality. We're looking for someone who values people, not somebody who can make a bus route or make a budget or has 20 years in some other business. We're looking for that
Capable.
character.
Right, and Paul, I really appreciate that, but on the same token, you want to kind of get those qualities in a person that does understand public budgeting, that does understand that this is a transportation district, but they may come from a different field. And I'll just because you and I think most of you in the room would know him, you take a guy like Bill Anderson. Bill didn't come from transportation, but he figured out he knows how to manage people and he knows how to manage programs. And he figured out, and as an interim, I think did a pretty good job for you. I'm not promoting Bill. He's not a candidate, okay? But that's what you're talking about.
Well,
Because I am a little concerned that we are focusing on personality exclusively, it seems, and I would like them to have, it'd be nice to have transit experience, but that they have an experience with a lot of people. If they only supervise 5 people, that's not so great. But they have to have some understanding of budget. I mean,
Sure. That's what I'm trying to say. I really I wrote down like 6 bullets on Paul's little thing there. And I like none of those that I disagree with. However,
I would just bring to mind our past director, Jeff Hazen, who had no transportation management, no transportation experience or exposure. And he learned very well. He didn't have the character that we were looking for, but for somebody who's committed to the job, they're going to pick it up. And we have Jennifer and we have Kelly. So he's got the resources here or she does, to bring that person up to speed. I'm not saying, that wouldn't be a benefit to have somebody with experience, but I think the priority is not a list of transportation skills so much as it is the skill to lead the people from where they've been the last few years to where they need to be.
and I was told, and this may be not correct, that the executive director does the grants.
That's not correct.
Okay, so,
Jay was like,
That's how we got into the problem with Jeff.
Jay was like.
no, I said that.
Jay brought us up. Jay was a good example of everything. Not knowing anything,
Yeah.
coming here, learning everything, and gently doing that with the team. I mean, he was good
And he
people.
That's
also-
true.
And
That's
he
true.
worked with government, Jay did. I mean, I know Jay. He had worked with government, which is a plus in some ways, because there are so many statutes. That's a plus anyway, I think.
George, didn't mean to stifle your momentum there.
no, you got me. I'm making notes here, my friend. This is a great I would have liked to have had this interaction a month ago, but that's partly my problem. So, okay, so what I would like to do is while you guys were having your little discussion, I went back and read our announcement, okay? That we're calling for people to apply. And I wanted to make sure we had some of these things in here, and we do. That where it says the ideal candidate, not everything exactly as you said it, Paul, but somebody that promotes innovative ideas, somebody that builds and maintains collaborative partnerships with internally and externally, somebody with good communication skills. So we've got things in there that we can use, because one of the things you don't want to get in a position where you get down to your final one or two and all of a sudden you're going, wow, this person doesn't even meet our minimum things,
Yes.
which we won't let that happen, but you understand what I'm trying to say. And I'm feeling, I read something while you were talking and I go, okay, we're good. Okay, so back to now let's, Paul, if you don't mind, we've kind of got the philosophical part we agree on, I believe we do. Let's talk a little bit more about the structure. How do you as a panel see the structure of us actually getting, let's say we get 10 applicants, we take a look at them internally, we say, yeah, 7 of these people pretty much meet your standards, do you want then the board, last time I had the board involved in reviewing 7 and helping me screen it to 5, do you want this committee to take that on, or do you want us to do it entirely, or what's your thoughts there?
Well, fortunately, Rebecca is our board chair right now, and I think you put the committee together. And I think that the charter for the committee was to get us to the point of dealing with the applicants. I think to come up with questions, to come up with the panel, to come up with the timeline. I don't think we were going to go much beyond that.
Then it goes to the board.
Yeah. So to answer your question, I think we did let the board see all the applicants that had passed your original screening last time.
Yeah, the board saw them all. Remember, I gave each one of you a binder and you went through it individually. And then I did a little matrix based on that input.
Okay. And then from that, we got the
5
UEs.
You got the 5 from that, right?
Right.
Remember, I sat down, Mary probably, I know Mary, remember, we went into your boardroom, you'd given me input, I put a matrix up on the wall and said, okay, based on what you said as individuals, here's where you all agree and here's where you don't. Remember, we ended up with 2 or 3 that, okay, those people are going to be invited. Then we talked about inviting 2 more and we ended up with 5. I think, was it 4 that finally showed up? I can't remember now, but anyway.
Yeah, I kind of like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually, I'm glad to hear you say that because I was worried you weren't, because then every board member gets to see at least the letters of introduction and the application of every candidate that met the minimums.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so we will do that. All right.
May I just, I don't know if you want to throw this in as qualifications or preference, working with governments, because Jay did, Jeff did, and it's a different world with government versus private sector.
Well, that can factor in. I think George
Preference,
can
not.
Well,
have that be
the posting's already out there. The job description already exists.
Well,
So, I just might mention as an aside here for the benefit of the committee and ultimately the board. We have a much more savvy board now than we did before. I mean, much more involved, much more aware. And I'm counting on the board being able to take the candidate that we end up with, that we hire, and help that candidate get to where we need them to be. We haven't really done that in the past. Shown them the job description, we've hired him, we've put him in the chair, and then we've taken whatever reports came down the stream, and we've said, yeah, we want service in Cannon Beach, but we haven't really worked that closely with the director. And I guess
And we didn't have overlap from a previous director because of the fallout. So
Yeah.
they didn't have the benefit of some overlap and, you know.
So I guess the reason I say that is I want to reassure the committee here, and I want to make that point to the board when we get there, is that we're a stronger board now. We know what we need, we know what's important. We can support the director in a way that we haven't been able to before. So if we get the raw material in this new person, I think the board will take a more active role in seeing that that person gets to where we need him or her to be.
Good point, and I think that should be, I'm gonna note that, and I think that that's something that we need to develop
Yeah,
in anticipation of when we've got the new hire.
yeah, and yeah,
Good,
I think Debbie has some insight into that
mhm, great,
thought about this that she can help us with.
that's wonderful.
Okay.
So,
I don't know, was there a question in there, George, or did I
Nope,
just?
nope, I'm actually, you guys, I'm just making notes. I'm actually gonna give you an email back today that outlines kind of what we agree to. And then you can look it over, you can talk to the board about it, and then get back to me and say, well, George, okay, we thought we agreed, we want to change this, and there's nothing wrong with that, okay? We're on a very friendly term here.
Okay, good.
and I think our timeline is probably still sufficient because, you know, if the deadline's February 14th for applications, that'll give you guys at SDAO 3 days to put together. February 17th, you know, that you deliver to the board the applications. And then we could put together a special board meeting on the 20th to review those. So
Yep,
I think we're in pretty good shape there.
Yeah.
And then that gives you several days to get the candidates notified.
the sequence of things here are in line with what we've talked about, okay? And I'm making the same notes on the side here. The problem that I'm gonna run into is sometimes when you put dates on paper and you're looking at your calendar in December, you don't take into consideration some things like what's going on in people's lives, okay? And one of the people that I was really relying on to help us with this is not going to be available in some of these dates. So I'm looking for somebody to help me there. I may be coming back to you to fudge some of these dates, not dramatic, not months out,
Sure.
but a day here or a day there. We may have to, but right now I'm looking that we'll close it on the 14th. The board will have information to them by the 17th of February. I'll meet with you on the 20th. And then we will go from there. Where I'm getting into some fudge factor issues is when we get into March. But we,
Should we try, give a tentative location for the meet and greet on the timeline?
yes, we did it Mary, are you still there?
Yeah,
Didn't we just did the meet and greet in the office there, didn't we?
yes, we did.
Yeah, and I think that worked fine.
Yeah.
We're great.
Yeah. Now, the thing I need to remind you about that is, and I don't mean to put work on it, is the meet and greets, due to some liability issues, are put on by the district, not by SDAO.
Okay,
We'll be there to facilitate it. We'll introduce the candidates. We'll make sure board members conduct themselves appropriately, so don't get themselves in trouble, but it's a district function. Just so you understand that, okay?
Is there something that, some code or something that we could read beforehand?
I think it's just a matter of not making commitments, not talking about the other candidates, not talking
Well,
about
that's-
individual
No,
employees.
well, I never do
You know,
that.
I think, George, if I'm correct, we just want to talk to the candidates about themselves and perhaps their experience and perhaps their impression of the area and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Instead of
The intent generally of the meet and greets is to allow anybody that has an interest in your district and anybody that has an interest in who the general manager and executive director may be, can come and view them and just get an idea. Hey, they really brought in some quality people. These aren't people that living in RVs on corners. You know, these are good people. And the other benefit, in fact, we encourage board members not to interact with the candidates a lot, that they're there to observe the candidates and observe who they're talking to, who they're interacting with, how they're presenting themselves. Did they show up in flip-flops? Did they show up in a suit? Did they, you know, your ability as a board member to socialize with them some is fine. You know, hey, thanks for bringing your wife. I'm glad to see your kids are here, whatever that may be. But we don't want board members drilling them like, well, tell me about your background. They get their chance to do that in a formal setting. Does that make sense what I'm saying there?
Yes, and we will pass that along to all of the board ahead of time, so everybody knows how to perform.
Yeah, and I take a lead on that for you. I personally greet each board member when they arrive. I give them they're the only ones that are identified other than the candidates. They're the only ones that get a sticker, you might say. Because I need to know who they are. Because I did a sister's fire district here a year ago, and I had to ask one board member to come outside and visit with me, and it was snowing. Because he was doing all the right things. He's a good guy, but he just got too much into the weeds with only one of the candidates. See what I mean? You got to be careful. You can't treat one different than another.
Yeah, that's right. So, well, that sounds good, and we can behave ourselves, and, you know, if we need to kind of float that date for now, that's okay, or we can nail a date.
Yeah, I'm not prepared to even give you any options right now. I've got to look at my options, okay? I got to visit with Shanta and come up with all right, we got 4th and 1 here. What are we doing?
Good. So maybe you want to talk about questions a little bit, not necessarily specifics, but I think you've been taking copious notes. I think you're starting to get a feel for, that fewer questions and more opportunity for the people to talk, and giving them kind of that comfort level where they can really talk instead of just bam, 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 answering little rote the questions where, they're not very substantive answers,
All right.
So that's what we're looking for.
Okay, here's what I would like you to do. Let's put your committee to work a little bit, okay?
Sure.
I sent you, I believe, 3 sets of questions, okay?
You just sent me, and I haven't shared those with anybody.
And that's fine, but I'm going to let the cat out of the bag here, okay? I sent you, I believe, 3 sets of questions. What I would ask this committee to do is confidentially take a look at those questions, pull from those questions, or dream up your own and write up, let's say, 5 to 7 questions for the panel and 5 to 7 questions for the board. And ship those to me, okay?
Right. That okay with everybody?
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, and then ship those to me. And we'll run them through our HR people to make sure that I'm sure there won't be anything, but we'll just, we're here. Remember, part of my role is to CYA everybody, okay? To make sure that we're not doing anything inappropriate. So we'll do that, and because we have some time, but let's get on that now, okay? Since we kind of know now, we're going to do a panel, a meet and greet, and then the board's going to interview. So we can work on those questions now.
Okay,
That sounds good. That sounds good. And Pam, you mentioned earlier about having a time for the candidate to talk after the questions, or after the interview.
Well,
Kind of a open forum. And George, I'm kind of wondering if we don't write the question, how you feel about if we write the questions in such a way that they prompt discussion about the question at that time rather than holding discussions off to the end of the interview.
follow-up questions, basically.
I'm kind of thinking that if we keep the number of questions low and really focused on what we're after, but each question leads to a discussion.
Okay, all right. I like what you're saying, Paul, but remember that follow-up, I've always used myself as an example. If you interview me and you ask me a question about, George, tell us a little bit about yourself, I have no problem going into great detail of how many grandkids I have and what religion I am and ta-da, okay?
Yeah.
Some of the things that I would share are actually protected, but I shared them. I chose as a candidate to share them. Does that make sense?
Right.
So you then, as an interview panel, can ask me follow-up questions. What do you mean you only tie your shoes with your left hand? Tell us more about that, okay?
Right.
Paul comes through the door. He's the next candidate. You ask him the same question you asked George, and he goes, yeah, I live at Sunset Beach. And that's all he says. You can't ask him which hand he ties his shoes with.
True.
Does that make sense?
That's true. That's why.
I made that very simple, but I want to make sure you understand that, okay?
Yeah, and I think we all understand that. I'm just suggesting that the questions be written in such a way that they encourage a discussion, not about
I love that, Paul. You know me well enough. You know I love that. I want to hear them talk. We want to
know the people. We want to get to know them in that short period of time in conjunction with the meet and greet.
I want them to answer the question. I don't want to see a presidential debate, okay? I want them to answer the question.
Right. But I want them to answer it fully and comfortably so that
exactly.
We see who they are.
Absolutely. You guys work on that. We'll flesh that out more, but I like what you're saying.
All right.
good.
I just have one thing. I don't know whether to bring it up. At the last meet and greet, a person who works here screamed at me about all that we had done. I don't know what the person said because this was at the meet and greet. So I didn't say anything. I had hoped that the candidates didn't hear this, and I don't think it will happen this time. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Well, the one risk you take at a meet and greet is you don't know who's going to come through the door. I mean, you know.
Someone who.
So, yeah, I mean, you don't know who's going to come through the door at the meet and greet, and we're going to we're going to manage the meet and greet. I should say the district is as professional as we can, but you're elected official. You may get approached by somebody, and I'm sorry, but that you do the best you can to manage it, and we'll help you.
Well, on an internal basis, we can brief all of the people from the district and say, basically, here's what the meet and greet is. This is the focus of it, and not in explicit terms like behave yourself, but I think we can get that across to
Oh,
our organization of how we're gonna conduct ourselves.
I have no fear in that.
And then we can also, we're smart enough and, we'll be aware of it. I think the board, we can gently run interference on anything, hopefully there's not any drama, but, a lot of times, you can kind of deflect those sort of things in the course of an event and to make it a successful activity.
Yeah. I can say I've helped facilitate, a dozen of these, and I've only had a couple of things happen that we looked back on, well, did we manage that right? But we learned from it. No. My situation is that I've run into has been mainly making sure people stay in their, you might say, in their lane, keeping people in their lane.
We could make sure, we'll try to optimize that.
Yeah.
Hey, George, on your notes that you're taking there, you're gonna send us an email. Could you include, whatever the advertisement was, the text of the advertisement that went out for this position?
Well, we're still doing some of that, because we still have a month before we cut it off. And the one thing I wanted to talk to this group about is we haven't really done anything locally, because it's a little more difficult now in your area. Would you like to see an ad in the Daily Astorian?
Yes.
Certainly.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, we'll make that happen.
So, I guess what this committee and probably the board would like to see at some point is the copy and perhaps a representative list of where the ad was placed.
Well, I can tell you where the quote, to say the ad was placed is a little bit different than what it meant 10 years ago, okay? We have individually mailed out the announcement and job description to all the agencies that we're aware of kind of in the region that would have, like, for example, you gave me one that we haven't got, might say published yet, but an economic development group. But as far as the transportation people, we've reached out to Oregon, Washington, Northern California transportation organizations and associations and given them the announcement and the job description. I'll check with Shanta. She kind of keeps a pulse on that to get specifics. But today, once I was done with you, and I found out about the Daily Astorian, I'm going to review everything and look and see whether we actually want to run it in some regional newspapers, which we have not done. Because I'll be honest with you, we get zero feedback from those with other agencies. It isn't like we run something well, just for as an example, we run something in the Oregonian, they're classifieds, and we get 5 applicants. We generally, we ask, because we do ask applicants, where did you see the announcement? And generally it comes from professional organizations that they're a member of, or that they're have access to. But if you have any ideas or any wants, I'm the guy to tell. We'll do what you want. The
mass transit publication, if that works out time-wise for when they publish, that would be good. And then the Colpack group, the economic development group, and that's already in the works. Right?
Colpack is in the works, and I'll follow up on it today. I will say that I did an email to just some agencies, that like you, well, I'm surprised Mary didn't get one because I'm not sure how it went out, but and I actually got some feedback on those. I actually had some people get a hold of me and say, hey, I got this. I see where Sons of Empire is hiring. I'm going to give this to Joe. And I went, hey, thanks. So that worked a little bit. But yeah, we're, again, I got to review it with Shanta. Shanta normally meet on Tuesdays to go over these things because this isn't the only recruitment we're doing right now, but and go over and see where we're at. So I'll have feedback. When's your board meeting?
Thursday.
Next Thursday.
A week from today, yeah. Rebecca, I'll drop you an email, let you know where I'll have something for you so you can show to the board.
All right, thank you.
Perfect, thanks, George.
I don't know anything about computers and social media, but that seems to be where people, we've been told, look for job openings. So-
Yeah, if you're a LinkedIn member, it's been on LinkedIn. That's the one where, that's kind of the professional social media. We've put it, it's been on, I've seen it on that twice. Sure that it gets out on that. We've kind of gone away from some of the, the Indeed type of areas because we end up with, it makes our work, it compounds our work because we get Paul Lewicki's bio and he's been retired 10 years. I mean, it's a computer generated thing. It's not Paul applying for the job. It's Paul had its thing in there 10 years ago and there it is. And I'm picking on you, Paul, but that's an example,
Yeah.
Got it.
All right, well, the board I think, I'm getting a sense that the board would like a better feeling about what's being posted and how widely it's being posted.
Yeah. Well, what is easy? The wideness is, I'll be bluntly honest with you, we're struggling with that a little bit, but we're on it.
Okay, that's fine. If you put it in a national publication, that would be interesting to the board. If
Yeah.
the LinkedIn, that's interesting to the board.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Basically, with a sense of what's happening with this project of theirs.
mm-hmm.
Would universities be a possibility or not experienced enough?
I'm sorry. Well, I've never sent a CEO app or announcement to a university, though I have, I have a tendency to visit some universities once in a while, and I see their job announcements, and they're for entry level positions, people coming out of college. They're not for CEO type positions.
George?
I never thought of it, so yeah.
I would recommend that you do Portland State University because it has a robust school of government
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of practitioners like land use planners, et cetera, management. They've got, school of management. So it makes a lot of sense because it's a part of our region.
I
So
never, you just triggered me. I got a couple, when she first said universities, I was thinking of, 4-year students. You just triggered me. I know where there's some MBA programs that are going on, and that would be a good one too.
There you go.
Yeah. Thank you. That you just triggered me on something there.
Yeah, and at the top of the list is PSU because, that's their specialty.
Yeah.
I'm glad we talked about it. It just triggered me too.
Yeah. No, I'm glad that came up.
Okay. Well,
What else,
anything else?
George?
Let me look here. I had a couple notes I made. Talked about, then I'm going to get back to you on the revisions and any date fudging I may want to do. You've got down that we'll do the meet and greet right now. It's scheduled for March 16th at the district office. Since we're just going to do a panel and then the board, do we need to use the college or could we do it? I don't know if we could do it at the office or could we do it at some other smaller facility maybe? I don't know. That's something to think about is where do we want to do these interviews?
We've done it here before, George.
Yeah,
We have done it here before.
in the boardroom.
In the boardroom? Even with, it's just like, so that'd be a case where we maybe have the one panel there in the morning, have the board in the afternoon, that type of thing?
Yeah, but we have the upstairs office,
Oh,
which
that's
is
right.
confidential too, remember that?
Yeah, that's right.
And that's very big.
Yeah, but and there's a breakout, is there, I remember last time when we were at the college, we had the advantage of a couple of other rooms. So
Right.
people could, you know, for confidentiality purposes and for the, you know, comfort of the
Well, could you
applicants,
do
but
it-
do we need any, Mary, help us out here with,
Right.
Like,
Upstairs,
There's,
downstairs.
there's several offices around here. There's the Boynton building. I bet you've been there before, George. That Boynton building that the county has. You've taught classes there before in the Boynton building.
Oh, yes,
Just a
yes,
block
yes,
away.
right.
And I could check their dates and we could possibly, because it's only a block away. A nice open space that's private, that can be
Well,
private, whatever.
it's nice to have, my vision now is I'm gonna have two panels. I'm having one panel made up of the group we're gonna talk about, or we're gonna put together. The other panel's the board. And then I need an area that's kind of the, you know, where I can be and where the candidates between their interviews have a place to hang, okay?
so here, Mary, this location wouldn't be very easily accommodating for that purpose, right? Here at the transit
I
center.
don't know, we did it before and it might have been tight, yeah.
Okay, because
We were
to
set
me,
up.
it makes sense to have a place that where, you know, it's.
We'll have to talk about that, George.
Okay.
Well, Paul, I'm just gonna give it to you this. I get it that it's been done at the office before. I personally don't like that. And the reason I don't like it is that is a place of business. That is a work area for people. I'm going to completely disrupt that day, okay? And I worry about the message that sends, okay? So I like having it at a remote site. You know, one of my favorite places I've used around the state is churches. But that's when we have more panels than what you're gonna have. So you only need a place that has 3 rooms, really. And maybe the office will work, but it does send a different message than, okay, we're gonna do it at the Boynton building or whatever, you know?
Well, all right, I can adjust to that, George. I'm just wanting it not to be complicated, not to have logistics issues. If we can find one venue that meets our needs and it's close to the transit center, I would be happy with that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Maritime Museum.
well, we can work out the details on that based on the criteria, so.
Yeah,
Okay,
you know your community a lot better than I do. I mean, you know, and I'm not gonna quit if you have it at your office, but it's just, I just want you to realize that that can cause some disruption.
Okay, well, we'll take care of it from that end.
are we giving names to George for the panel so we can keep this moving along?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's-
you're gonna talk about that and somebody's gonna ship me a list here in a day or two or whatever.
Right.
Okay.
Anything else?
I think I'm pretty good. I'm sure I'll work through this. Rebecca will probably be calling you, maybe even later today. Just to give you an idea, I'm gonna work on this today till about 2, and then I've got to drive to Tillamook, and then I get to drive home tonight, and then tomorrow I get to drive Tillamook again. So,
Okay.
Questions?
Yeah, we're, you know, I'm
Three cards.
available and, you know, by phone and by email. I'm checking the emails, throughout the day, so, I can get you a good response. So, and we've got our marching orders too.
Yeah.
well, and I wanna,
Get it together anytime you need to.
That's right.
yeah, and I wanna get you something that gives you good notes to review with the board on next week, and that we get, you know, we get clarity from, you know, you as a panel, you as a committee, have good clarity, and then we got our good marching orders and we're moving forward. Okay?
Okay,
Good.
Hey,
very
good to hear
good.
your voice.
George.
Hey, thank you very much, and I apologize for being a little late, but this worked out good for me, and I hope it worked out for you.
Indeed it did. Thank you, George.
Thank you,
All right.
George.
Okay, bye-bye. Good. Okay, so we need to, you guys are gonna get stuff from me because George is gonna give me stuff. I already have the questions that he gave me. We're supposed to look at them, come up with 5 to 7 questions for the panel and 5 to 7 questions for the board. We need to find a location, an off-site location for the panel interviews, the interviews. We're still kind of, we're okay with meet and greet here. We're just waiting for a date for that. What else? Anything else?
So are we discussing, giving you some ideas where to meet? I
Why
mean,
don't
where
we
to-
ask Mary, can you do that, Mary?
Yeah,
You
that's
know the
fine.
place is close by here. I like Boynton Building, I thought was a great idea.
Yeah,
It's real close and,
great parking.
yeah. Do you think
But
you
they're
could?
busy, and so it's a dream. It
Well-
would be a dream.
Okay,
I like the location, the rooms of the college.
Yeah, room
And-
219.
You know, I mean, it's very tidy, and, you know, when we get adjoining meetings in the Patriot Building, you know, that worked for me. I thought that was nice.
It's about $500, say.
well, I'll
Oh,
go with
it
what
is?
the committee wants to make the recommendation
Yeah, I
here,
mean,
but I
Boynton
want
works for me too.
small, close, something that's easy to manage. I
Right.
mean, driving to the college, now we're gonna have to get,
It's huge.
maps to the people, they got stairs, you got material to carry in for the panel. I think if we could stage everything here and just take it over to the Boynton Building or some other building that you might be aware of,
Yeah, fine.
within
I'm
2
okay with
blocks
that
of
too.
here, it should be easier than having to use
Okay.
vehicles.
All right, sounds good
But
to me.
I'll go with the
Nope,
group.
you won me over on that.
As long as there's something available. What about these fancy rooms here that overlook the river? I think that's more expensive than the college.
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna say.
Well, are you gonna email us the
Yep,
questions?
I'm gonna email the questions, and then, I'll do like a little recap of, you know, what we talked about today, just so it's all in one spot for you, in an email.
Do you want
Or
us
would you
to?
like it to be a document that's attached to an email?
Oh, it doesn't matter, whatever
Just
way,
an
but
email?
do you want us
Okay.
then to send our thoughts back to you?
I guess so.
Okay,
It makes more sense that I'll put them together in a document and then send them to George. How's that? Or, yeah,
okay,
you know
no,
what?
that's fine.
Or, you know what, if, I don't really, if, I'm only one vote, okay? What do you guys think? Would you like to send your questions directly to George?
I think collating.
I think we ought to put it together.
Okay,
You're our point
All right.
person, George is the contractor.
happy to do it.
And cut down
And-
duplication too.
yeah,
Got
and- And then at some point, well, that'll be part of our presentation to the whole board, I guess.
So what will we be doing the board meeting next week?
Well, that's where, how about if I, you know, days before, I mean, it's already gonna be on the agenda. Okay, so we don't really have to do anything for you to add to the agenda,
I already
to
put it, I put it
the
on the
packet.
agenda. I put
Well, it's on the, yeah,
Yeah,
and
I just put
Debbie and
updates
I
on.
talked
Okay.
about the agenda this morning, and that'll be on
Okay.
there. And, if there's any, do you want me to have any written materials for you to put into the packet?
I don't think you'll have time.
Yeah, that's pretty
You'll
short
have
order.
that at the meeting.
I think
Send
it's
it out.
mainly what we put on the agenda was update from the recruiting committee.
Yeah,
That's what.
And then if we have, it's mainly just gonna be just a verbal to the board. Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
go over the, maybe, you know,
will you make that presentation,
Go
or
over
will you
timeline.
have one of us do it?
I don't care. Would anybody like to do it, or would you like me to do it?
For the chair, that we're all in agreement?
That's fine, if you wanna do it, if you want me to do it, I will.
Okay,
Either way,
well, sure. I would like you to do
will
it,
it
Paul.
help? You got a lot on your plate.
I have a lot on my plate right now.
Let's do everything that you said, and then I'll put something together to present to the board.
Okay, all right,
And we'll have to do it as, if we're gonna have it written, it'll have to be a handout at the meeting.
all right.
Okay.
And we're gonna have enough communication well before that from George and everything like that, so that you'll
Yeah.
have all the material, everything you need in order to give an update to the board.
Okay,
Yeah,
Awesome, thank you.
because
Paul.
that, we should have that, you should have that by next Thursday, his
Yeah, he's gonna
feedback
get
too.
back to me within a day or so.
Okay.
Yeah. Got it. And then we, let's just motivate ourselves as a committee here to really kind of jump on those questions. Because I think that'll be helpful to George. But this was a good meeting because George completely got what we were
yeah,
doing, and he liked it. So, and he's a quick study. I think he'll know how to facilitate our goals.
yeah. We really couldn't do anything without having this meeting today,
Oh,
because,
absolutely.
he's the one that's got to keep us on the rails.
That would have been very nervous making for me if he didn't get what we needed.
Yeah,
In terms of, I mean, we really have a big job, and if the creek don't, whatever that's called, rise,
yeah.
hopefully we got some good applicants to pick from. So,
Where do you
anyway,
get these expressions?
yeah,
She
what is
has
it called?
these-
God willing, and if the creek don't rise? Yeah. So anyway, with that, anything else, I'll close the meeting.
I like him.
Okay, meeting closed at 11:25.